Welcome to the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, an Aston Villa supporters podcast brought to you from Australia. You got Spud, Tess and Ryno. Welcome to this 3-point Sunday, boys. How's things?
Get in. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. And for those who are listening on the pod, I've got like fists in the air and everything. I've got my Villa shirt on. I've got a drink here to celebrate with these boys because I haven't spoken to them today. So cheers. Really delighted with that. It was a really good performance in the beginning part. So let's talk about it a bit more today. How about you, Ryno?
Yeah. Unbelievable way to start the season, wasn't there? And not a happy hunting ground for us either recently. So, yeah, just so happy to get the 3 points.
Yeah, it's, I thought it was a brilliant performance. I mean, like, obviously it is what it is. It was early in the season. It wasn't perfect, but like the positives, like for the opening of the season, was so good, man. Obviously we'll get into the game a bit more, but I will say one thing: even after, if it had finished 1-1 at that point, I would have still been delighted because the amount of chances we created in that game just so positive, and the sharpness will come. But we won't jump ahead. We'll start a bit early, and we'll start about 3.5 to 4 minutes in, lads. We won a corner. Yuri Tillman's whipped in a lovely ball, and our new man, the man we've been loading as the big profile that we've been missing in the middle, gets his head in it. Ryno, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
What a sight to see, isn't it? Just big Onana just striding through the box and just unmarked. I'm surprised the keeper didn't come for it. Brilliant delivery, but sort of lost his mark. Near post bang. And the Belgian connection. Brilliant balling from Tielemans. But we've been saying, haven't we, boys, that we haven't been blessed with height over the last few seasons. And we've really missed that physicality and presence from corners. And 3-4 minutes in, bang, there it is. First goal for Onana. Brilliant.
Yeah, and the commentator said an interesting stat too, like that's Onana's 4th Premier League goals, and all the goals have come from headed corners, which I thought was quite interesting. I didn't even know that.
Who Onana's ones? All of his goals have come.
All four of his goals have come from headed corners. Yeah. So
Wow.
in the Premier League, which is very interesting, I thought. Tess.
He's also got the ninth quickest goal for somebody who's on their debut for a club in the Premier League as well.
Oh, that's good.
I think David Healy was someone like that, was like the very top.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah. I don't really like to give out
research.
I don't like to give out participation medals for 9th place.
That's true.
So after the 4th minute, then, lads, we really took control of the game, and I think Onana was probably the centre to that. You could see very early the way we'd like to set up, and we had Yuri Tielemans and Onana obviously in the middle, John McGinn in there with them, but obviously pushed a little bit further McGinn, but dropping back when we were in possession and pushing forward out of possession. So I thought it was really, really good. And I don't think I've ever seen Thomas Souček get dominated so much. He couldn't touch the ball there for the first 9-10 minutes. What was an interesting point in the first couple of minutes too, lads? Because did you notice the way Tielemans and Onana just kept switching? One was going further and one was dropping back, and they were switching. Now that changed as the game went on, but it was very noticeable in the early doors that one would sit back, then the other would go and just really give you a little insight of what they're going to be trying to do going forward. So, what else did you pick up in that first early 10 minutes, lads?
Oh, just the possession was good. Yeah. Sorry, Ryno. The possession was really, really good. We looked like we had been practicing all of the kind of plays that we were doing within the first 10, 15 minutes. And I was sitting back just watching, thinking, yeah, this is really what I wanted to see, us coming out and playing against West Ham like this and like trying to dominate the game. Because we didn't get to see it much in pre-season. But then you also got to see, Rodgers running like half the length of the pitch with the ball and carrying the ball forward and bringing the whole team forward, which was really exciting to see. I guess that was something I was thinking that was, like Diaby would be doing if he was still at the club, or Jacob Ramsey would be doing. So, just saw some really nice patterns of play. The team gelling quite well together and talking to each other, which was really, really good.
I thought, like you said, Spud, I think Tielemans and Onana just dominated, and they just controlled the tempo early on for us, kept the ball, kept it moving. But I was surprised how much space they gave Luca Dean early on. He was getting a lot of free space on the left there, and then Pau Torres and Emi Martinez were just pinging balls over to him. And I'm surprised West Ham didn't close that down sooner. I thought he was a real threat, Luca Dean, for the first 30 minutes, first half. Probably dropped off a little bit in the second. But I thought that left-hand side, we looked really dangerous. And just like Tess just touched on, just the ball carrying. We look strong, don't we? With, the likes of Onana coming into the team now. Morgan Rogers just picking up the ball and driving with it. Leon Bailey's doing what he was doing last season, just looks dangerous, doesn't he, out on the right, cutting in. And it was a really dominant first 30 minutes before West Ham really got into it. And we probably could have been 2 or 3 goals up, to be honest, at that point. And then West Ham, after we missed a couple of chances, you could just feel West Ham starting to get a foothold in there, and they started to come back a little bit just before half-time there.
I thought what your point about Luca Dean was very good, and the space he was getting, but it was also being created by us, because I think we caused so much uncertainty, and I think it's obviously something that Emery must have put in there, because it was interesting to watch Morgan Rogers' starting position from when Torres had picked up the ball. Rogers had just dropped really, really wide, and then as soon as Torres progressed with the ball, Rogers would drop into the middle, and McGinn would get nice and close to him, and they were just creating that space. And honestly, the West Ham fullbacks, they didn't know whether to go or not, and they were uncertain, because as soon as Rogers got a couple of touches early, their confidence shot to pieces, because they didn't know whether to go to Luca Dean or go to Rogers, because anytime that they went to Rogers, Luca Dean pulled in there. Anytime they went to, soon as they went for Luca Dean, Rogers would pull back out wide, and they just pulled that fullback all over the place, and it was really, really good to see. I think it was Kufal, was it? Was it Kufal who was playing right back for them? And usually he's a solid defender. He's caused us a lot of trouble in the past, so obviously Emery devised a little bit of homework on him. And by doing that, when Rogers would drop into the middle, it was causing all kind of confusion in the middle then too, because Onana and Tielemans were going man for man in the middle. You'd McGinn dropping back, and you had Rogers coming in. So we were just packing that midfield, but the ball was going wide. I thought it was really clever, and I think being able to do that comes down to a lot to having Onana, the confidence for Onana to shield that back four, that if the ball does overturn, and if that's what we're going to be, how we're going to be playing going forward. I know it's obviously going to change in different games. That's very exciting. It's to see that that's away from home on the opening day, to be that expensive in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Obviously, it was going to tail off, but it was obviously a game plan to come out and just hit it. And every time Rogers got the ball, he just turned and went. I loved watching. I was very excited watching.
I was just impressed as well with the back five, including Martinez. You could see, like, Pau Torres, that back four is very comfortable together. They've played a lot of games together now, and they know what's expected, the style of play. I thought Pau Torres was phenomenal today, just with ball at feet, carrying the ball for us as well, getting the ball in tight spaces off Martinez under pressure and just breaking the lines and just setting us up. He's instrumental for me.
I think we lost Ryno there just a minute there, so he was right though. Pau Torres, there he is.
We're back. Sorry, we all dropped out.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I just think Pau Torres is just. But and just I was really glad to see, the confidence. You can see that back four plays with Pau Torres playing with the ball. He just starts everything off for us. He's so important for us in the way we want to play, and great to see, Matty Cash, Konza coming back in, obviously after being away for the Euros. And you can just see the guys' confidence, the back four, with Emi Martinez behind them as well. It's just, unreal. I thought we were going to be under a lot more pressure than what we were from West Ham early on. I was expecting it to be a bit more of a physical battle, but I just think Onana and Tielemans just took the sting out of it early on for us, which was brilliant.
Yeah, it was very clever, some of the stuff they were doing. Tess, what did you think of, obviously we obviously created a lot of chances as well, and there was one particular one where Rogers picked up the ball and just drove at that defence, and then the shot was probably a bit weak at the end, unfortunately, but he really showed how his ball carrying skills, and again West Ham didn't know whether to go to him.
Yeah. Oh, I thought Rodgers was really, really good, especially in the first half an hour. He played the whole game, I think. The ball carrying was something that we kind of associate with Jacob Ramsey, don't we? We talk about Jacob Ramsey, we say how good he is at carrying the ball. And in all honesty, in pre-season, I haven't actually seen Rodgers carry the ball that in the way that he did today against West Ham. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. When he gets going, he's a quick player. He just looks really quick and really strong. No one wanted to touch him. And he was looking for other players, trying to bring players in. Really constructive forward play. Really impressed with what Rodgers did, and of course he was helped by having Tielemans and Arne behind him. But I thought he would have been due a goal today because he would have deserved one if he did get one. I thought he was really good throughout the 90 minutes while he was playing.
You could tell it was the first game of the season. Obviously, there was a bit of a plan there, but a couple of players were maybe lacking a bit of sharpness. But we can't hammer them for that because it's the first game of the season, and obviously they're all just coming back from their break. And Leon Bailey kind of didn't get into it for the first maybe 10 minutes and 15 minutes, and I thought Bailey was going to have one of them games that where maybe he just goes hiding and then he just takes this unbelievable touch with the ball over the top. And I have to say, I think it was a Mavropanos or Kilman, whichever one of it was. Such clever.
I think it was Kilman.
Yeah, it was Kilman. I think he just threw himself with the double leg out. He didn't get anything on it, but it was just enough of a presence because up to that point Bailey had done absolutely everything right. He skinned him, and Bailey probably should have scored. He'd a hard bit done, but I'm not going to hit him for it because what Kilman done, I thought it was quite clever defending. He just it was like a weird kind of tackle, or just a weird presence. So and a couple of minutes later, then he picked up the ball again, and he just unfortunate not to get it to John McGinn first time. It took a little deflection, and it came into John McGinn. The commentator said John McGinn took the wrong option. He should have put his laces through it. I thought he'd done exactly what he should have done.
I thought the same.
Agree. I like his shot. It practically grazes the post, and the keeper gets nowhere near it. So placing it, he was just off target. If he gets that on target where he was aiming, I thought it was the perfect choice.
And on his right foot as well, right? Wasn't it? So it was on his right foot. So I mean, come on, it was close, like it was inches, away from goal. I think he did the right thing, what he could do in that moment, because he had to think on his feet really quickly, right?
I thought that was excellent composure shown in the box. Like, you put your laces through that there, it could go anywhere. I can't fault him for it. I thought it was a good effort. Look, another inch or two and it's in the back of the net, but it definitely, the commentator, just saying stuff for no reason. I didn't think you need to at all. So suddenly you kind of start to think, we're on top. What's going to happen here? Because we've seen this movie before where Villa dominate games and then we can see it. But we were controlling the game, and as you said yourself a second ago, Ryno, West Ham kind of started to come back into it. I thought we let them back into it. If I'm honest, I don't think West Ham did a lot to get back into the game. Going off Twitter, and obviously Twitter's never a massive barometer of judgment, so I'm going to ask the two of you your opinion. The penalty, lads, is it a penalty for you or not?
Yeah, for me, it's a penalty. And when I first saw it, I didn't realise until later on today that he'd got a little touch on it. But when I first saw it, the lunge, like the second action of the lunge where he wraps his legs up and then gets tangled up, for me, it's a penalty. I know I've been on Twitter and it's there's a few different views out there, but for me, a penalty.
Tess?
No chance. It's a really soft penalty. Really soft. Like, it was really, really soft. And I think my opinion is that even whether he was going to touch the ball or meant to touch the ball, he did touch the ball, Cash, and the ball did change direction, which means that in that challenge, he got the ball. The kind of coming together came after that. I don't think it's a penalty. I think it was really, really soft.
It's a penalty for me. I'm just going to be...
You too, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, if that's Onana and it's one of them making the tackle on him, I want a penalty for it. And that's how I have to look at it. I genuinely, I think he probably got a touch on the ball. I think he
He
should
definitely got a
never.
touch on the ball.
He should never have put himself in that position to make them a decision, because as soon as Suchek went down, it was going to be given, and it wasn't going to be overturned.
Yeah.
Look,
It was
I'm not going
soft though.
to.
You got to say it was soft.
It,
It was a
it was
soft
soft.
penalty.
It was soft, but if that's for us, I want that penalty, and that's genuine.
Yeah, and if that happens anywhere else on the field, I'm expecting a free kick. So the box is no different for me. And I think he does get a touch, which I didn't see first time, but it is that wild lunge, the second act, and it just the legs get tangled. Once you're in that position, you're in trouble, aren't you? Really, especially in the box.
He's
His
unlucky.
first game of the season, they're knackered after that. What was happening? I'm trying to make excuses here, I know, but
Look, I think he's unlucky, and if the ref didn't give it, I'd say fair enough. I don't think it's Stonewall penalty. I don't think it's not super soft. I just think some refs will give it and some do not. And I'm not going to knock Cash, because I actually thought Cash had a really good game overall. But
Yep.
I think it was a bit naive for him to make the tackle. He didn't have to, kind of was there covering him. Obviously he just made the decision, and he's only got a split second to make that decision, and the ball's there to be won. He's going to go for it, but I think he got enough of the man to let the man go down to stop the thing. And
he was up against Kudus though. Kudus was great, wasn't he? He was a fantastic player.
Fantastic player, yeah. And you see West Ham have a couple of good players there, so it's a big win for us. And you can tell once they get going, they'll be a threat to a lot of teams. They could end up doing what we did last season, a bad opening day and then going on a good run after, because there's definitely signs of a good team there, and you see what they were bringing off the bench as well. That led them back into it, whether it's a penalty or not. I mean, look, everyone's going to have their own opinion on that, so I'd never hammer someone for saying it's not. It's just my opinion. I look at it that if it happened to a Villa player, I want a penalty for that. So for me, that's a penalty, but I can understand why someone would say it's not. The frustrating thing for me is because I think that completely handed momentum to West Ham for a while. And funnily enough, after the control we had, I actually think half time came at a good time for us, because the momentum was with them slightly, and I was kind of happy enough to see the half time whistle at that point. Came back out then the second half, lads. Bit kind of bitty and scrappy for the first 10 minutes. We started to get a foothold in the game again. I think Onana was really prevalent when he was doing. He started slowing the game down, just killing a bit of West Ham's momentum. Kudus was obviously causing us a lot of problems, and boy, he's unbelievable at wiggling out of small spaces. I've never seen anything like it. And keeping control of
the small spaces.
Yeah. So what was your overriding start for the first few minutes of that half, lads? Were you concerned, or were you kind of happy enough where we were at that stage?
Probably a bit concerned. Like you said, given the second half, the way it ended, I thought we'd sort of dropped off a little bit. But, the pleasing thing for us, and the first thing I saw when I looked at the team today was the bench. And I was thinking, if the game's getting on, we've actually got a bench there that can make a difference. There's players, that bench is strong. There's no filler on that bench like there was last year, where we'd have two keepers or a couple of the young guys in there to make up the numbers. So, when the game was sort of drifting, the game was drifting a little bit, wasn't it, early second half, and there wasn't much going on. And when and they made some changes, and you could just see some of these players coming on. JJ came on, John Duran came on, and JJ looked really fit and firing, and it just changed the course of the game then, didn't it, for us? We just got, a bit of energy again, and Maatsen came on as well, and just a bit of, just pushed us on a little bit, I felt. I thought the game was probably drifting, and then the subs made the difference for me.
Tess, I don't want to sound harsh now, because obviously it's first game of the season, so this isn't knocking him at all whatsoever, but I've got to be honest, I was actually surprised Wally Watkins came out the second half. I thought he was miles off it. He was not at the races at all. I think Bailey and Watkins started really, really slow, but Bailey kind of grew into it after a while, but Watkins never got into it. And that's not a fault of his own. He obviously wasn't fit. He hasn't really trained. He hasn't played, so I think he probably only got 60 minutes to try and get some minutes into his legs. I think if that had been a performance based, I don't think he would have came out in the second half. I think that was purely down to fitness, and I think it's just about getting some minutes in his legs, because purely based on performance, he didn't really deserve to come out second half. It's okay to say that. Watkins has been our best player for a long time now, but John Duran came on then with Maatsen, Tess. and JJ. It was a triple substitution, was it? No, it was a double first, wasn't it? It was a
double
first,
substitution first. Yeah.
What were your thoughts when that substitute came in? So it was JJ and Duran for Watkins and McGinn. What was your thought at that period?
At that moment, I actually felt like we needed to make some changes and freshen up the team a little bit and see if we could bring players on who can make an impact, to be honest. Because it looked as though at certain times it was kind of drifting away from us, and then it got a bit scrappy, and West Ham were trying to build on the confidence that they had because they scored that previous goal in the second half. So I thought we needed something a bit different. Ollie wasn't on it, but in all fairness to Ollie, though, he's a fit lad anyway, but he hasn't had a pre-season. He was on holiday after being at the World Cup and scoring massive goals for the semi-final to get to the final of the World Cup for England. Just put that in there a little bit. But I think this is Emery's way of saying, like, you're still my number one. We need to get you some minutes in the game. And I think it was actually a really good game to try and get him some minutes in. If after 60 minutes like he did, he was nowhere near it. He got some. He did a lot of running, but just didn't seem to be involved in the play a lot. I think that was good for him and good for us. But it also gave an opportunity for John Duran to come on and try and state his name for a place in the first team, which, we all know that it's not going to happen anytime soon, but there's nothing wrong with having that competitive edge and saying, do you know what, I'm here, I'm staying. And I think he wanted to send a message to the supporters as well to say there was a lot of stuff that happened during the summer holidays, and now I'm just going to come on. I've been given the number 9 shirt. Let me get on and see if I can affect the game. And he did. But not only him, Ian Maatsen as well came on, and I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was brilliant. And in the games that I'd seen him in pre-season, saw nothing like what I saw today from him. And I haven't watched him live before, so I didn't watch the Champions League final. I hadn't been following Dortmund. He came from Dortmund, right? So I hadn't been following what they'd been doing, and I hadn't followed him before. But when he came on for Luca Dean, I thought, there's a player in there, and he seemed forward thinking, quick, trying to progress play, sensible, intelligent play, and he affected the game in a really, really good way. So what I like most, though, while I'm on my rant, is that not so much a rant, but while I'm on, I like that we've got a first team of players that we all know, and they were quite impressive today for most parts of the game. I'd say 70 minutes all up throughout the game. I think we were really, really good. But we've got players that can come off the bench now and affect the game in a positive way, not just to shore things up, but if we need to get something, we've got players that are capable of doing that, and that was really, really, really good to see today.
Ryno, I think it's fair to say, and I suppose it's easy to say after, but I even thought this watching the game, I thought Emery got all his substitutes bang on right at the right time.
Yeah.
I personally thought Watkins wouldn't come out in the second half, but I can understand why he did. So he's got minutes in the legs, he's got an hour under his belt, but every substitute was done at the right time. Even like I thought Luca Dean was excellent today for the most part. So to get Luca Dean a good run of it, to get Maatsen a good run of it, and get him coming on chomping at the bit, And what I really liked as well, Luca Dean looked genuinely happy for Maatsen going on for him. He gave him a big rub of the head, and it was kind of, like there was obviously good spirit there. And before we move on to the last 20 minutes of the game, no Alex Moreno, lads. What is that? The two lads playing today, is that a sign for you that no Alex Moreno? He wasn't even in the squad, was he?
I saw comments from Unai Emery saying that he's going to be sold. They've confirmed they're trying to sell him. So
really?
it was all over Twitter today. So apparently Nottingham Forest are interested. But Unai Emery said after the game that he's pretty much, there's an opportunity for him to leave the club, and there he goes with the blessing. So it's a shame because he did so well for us when he came in, but when he signed Maatsen and Luca Dean's, he's earned that spot, so he deserves that time, doesn't he, playing left back? And I agree with you, Spud. He was brilliant today, Luca Dean. I think him and Matty Cash, I think when they came off, I think it was the right time to bring them off. I think the legs were going. They both obviously got through a bit of work first game of the season, and then getting Maatsen and I'm going to pronounce it wrong every time, Nedeljkovic on. I thought both subs were well timed. I just think we need the fresh legs down there, and I thought Maatsen looked brilliant. And then for the goal, the build up, just a lovely ball over the top, and just a first touch into Jacob Ramsey, and just the link up play. It was just brilliant, and brilliant vision from Ramsey to pick out Duran who's in the box. He could have taken the shot on himself, but yeah, just unbelievable.
Tess, before we got the winner, JJ and Duran actually linked up as well. Oh no, sorry, Maatsen and Duran actually linked up a couple of minutes before it, and Duran took the shot on, and JJ was screaming for it in the middle. It's easy to say no, he should have squared it, but I'm happy for Duran to shoot there. You want your strikers taking that on, personally.
But we know what John Duran does. Like most of the time when he scores goals for us, they're not just like tap-ins all the time. They're like he scores worldy goals, and I think for a striker you have to be a bit selfish. And if it was a more seasoned and more mature striker, a bit older with a bit more experience, that ball would have probably been squared across.
Ollie would have taken the shot there as well, though.
I think Ollie would have taken the shot, and I think he should have taken the shot. And he wasn't far off, man. Like I don't think you can have a go at him for that. It was just one of those opportunities that we didn't get. He didn't get the goal, but good on him for taking that chance. He wants to score goals, and that's what he's there for. And you have to give them that freedom to, if they think it's on, then take the risk and go for it. So I have no qualms about John Duran taking that shot. Looking at it, you could easily say, well, why didn't you square it? But he's the striker, and it's up to him to score goals. So that's his job. So have a go.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, Ryno. If you want your striker to take that and have the confidence there, and he's obviously desperate for a goal too, because he knows there's a lot of messing going on over summer. He probably knows he owes the Villa fans something. Ryno, I wanted to ask you something. Like, as Villa fans, we've seen a brilliant bit of man management before from Dean Smith, where he gave Jack Grealish the captaincy to try and kick the club on. Are we seeing something similar with Emery giving the number 9 to John Duran? Do you think this is a clever move from Emery to say, John Duran, you are part of my team. Stay here.
I think it is. I think giving him the number 9, that's massive, isn't it? And, it's been a very disrupted summer for him. And then the comments after the game from Unai Emery sort of saying that, we want him around. He's a talented boy. Things weren't great earlier in the summer, but Unai Emery saying he's here to stay. And, I think you're right. Giving him that number 9, like an iconic shirt like that, is just a little to try and give him a little bit of a boost. And got no problems with strikers taking shots when they're in and around the box. That's what you want, isn't it? You don't want them second guessing themselves. That's a striker who hasn't got confidence, isn't he? Who's second guessing and not taking shots on. And he's a real handful, though. And again, we talk about substitutions. Like Ollie Watkins, I was surprised to see his name in the starting lineup. I thought they might go with Morgan Rogers to start up front, and maybe Barkley might sit in the midfield with Onana and Tielemans a bit further forward. But like you say, he hasn't had a pre-season, but as soon as John Duran came on, that's why Villa signed him. He's just athletic, powerful, a handful, and just he's gonna be a problem for defenders. And if they can just keep his head screwed on, easier said than done. There's a real player there, and I think with the amount of games we're going to play, we've been saying it all summer. There's going to be minutes for players. We can't just keep going to the well with Ollie Watkins every game, 90 minutes. You know what I mean? We've got to try and spread that load out, because he'll just burn Ollie out. And it could be a masterstroke giving him the number 9. We'll see.
Yes, do you think it was a message to the fans as well, Emery giving John Duran number 9 to try and kind of, smooth things between the club, like for Emery to say to the fans, he's my man, he's staying. Do you think that, or do you think, are we just overlooking to it and it's number 9, it's a striker, 9 was available? Or do you think Emery is sending a message to both the fans and Duran?
Both. I think it's a both situation. I think one for him, I think John Duran is one of those young players that you need to keep your arm around, give him a bit of confidence and let him know that he's wanted. And perhaps because he didn't get so many minutes in the last season, that he feels like he wasn't wanted at the club and wanted to get out and go somewhere else where he thinks he's going to play. Giving him the number 9 shows a little bit of confidence in him and his ability. And also you realise that Cameron Archer's just left, which means that he's the only proper second striker, right? So he's the only one left. So he's going to get games, playing Champions League, guaranteed, was it 8 matches in the Champions League we get? So he's guaranteed to be playing minutes in the Champions League. We've got the Cup games and the Premier League. He's going to get lots of minutes this season, and he's going to get an opportunity to show what he can do. In terms of the supporters, a little bit of a message to the supporters that we know what's happened in the summer period with John Duran, but now we need him with us, and we need you to make sure he's with us by supporting him. And the reason I say that is because ever since Emery walked through the door, every single thing that he says in every single press conference is about building this club, about building relationships with the supporters, making sure that the supporters are on board. But to make sure the supporters are on board, the players have to give back a little bit as well. And that's been Emery's message. So I think in answer to your question, was a little bit of both, to be honest with you. And great man management. Great.
Yeah. And to be fair to Emery, I think there's no doubt that they had a price set, and if the price was matched, they probably didn't want to sell him, but given PSR and obviously John Duran being a bit mad as well, they probably set their price. I've no doubt that had West Ham or Chelsea actually matched their price, he probably would be gone. But the fact that they were so tight on the price and stuck to it, they obviously are worried that they were going to sell him and he'd go on and be a major talent. But in Emery's defence, Emery has always said he wants to work with him. Like, as in any interviews at the end of last season and stuff, Emery said he can be difficult, but I want to work with him. I want to guide him. Like, so Emery obviously sees him as a youth. And we've said in this podcast, and every podcast that says it, like, he is the perfect number backup, like, striker. He is ideal. We're not, like, it doesn't, if we'd sold him this summer, he would have been so hard to replace. Like, as in, to find someone that can bring that level of ability off the bench, but not just that, but that also that level of difference. Like, he's very different to Ollie Watkins. And Ryno, like, we'll skip the goal for a second just because we're talking about Duran. One thing I did notice, and it's not something I've seen in his game yet, see how well he held the ball in the corner in the last couple of minutes there. I mean, that was, even that alone is a sign of maturity. Because, like, last season he would have tried to shoot. He would have turned and tried to shoot, But, so obviously, he's hoping to give it a go himself, and I'm all for it. As long as he doesn't become too disruptive, I'm all for it, because I said to you how, like, I was at the Liverpool game when he came on, and he just came on chomping at the bit, and he's an issue. Like, if you're a centre-back who's just been ran down by Ollie Watkins for 70 minutes, you see Ollie Watkins going off, you're getting a breather, and you think, oh, and then this fella comes in, he's just dropping elbows into you and just wanting to fight you, and just, you know what I mean? Like, but it's very hard as a defender, like, after the legs.
When he comes on, he causes absolute mayhem, doesn't he? Like, he causes absolute mayhem when he comes on. But you know what? I'm here and I'm for all that. I want to see that. I want him to come on and be that problem, but be that problem in a good way. Come on and make things difficult for the opposition defender. Come and help your teammates. Yeah. Like, just get it. Just get in and show what you can do. I was saying to somebody the other day, I think somebody said, does he deserve a second chance? And my response to that was that everybody deserves a second chance, but everyone will remember you based on what that second chance was. Everyone will remember you for that second chance. So it's up to him now. It's up to him and his teammates to make it work, because if it's successful, we've got one hell of a player on our hands who can just grow and grow and grow. And if it doesn't, he might be one of those forgotten people that could have been. He was a could have been person, and end up playing without, no disrespect, in Saudi Arabia or somewhere in a couple of years' time, where, you're hundreds of people are watching you and not millions.
Yeah, and Ryno, a very big positive thing is, obviously, we mentioned earlier about Luca Dean and Ian Matson, and they complement each other because they're very different. They're very different fullbacks, so it gives us another option. And I do think they're going to switch games. I think Luca Dean will still see plenty of games this season, as will Matson, and because Luca Dean will probably play in the tougher games where you're needed and more defensive, because he's probably more defensive experienced than Matson. But the games are going to be expensive. I'd expect to see Matson, but I think you'll probably see the two of them in a lot of the games. where it's like one will start and the other will come on if we're behind or if we're trying to win a game, or vice versa. Dean will come on if we're trying to stay out a game. So it's a great option to have. But the goal, Ryno, talk us through it. So Matson collects the ball.
It's a brilliant ball from Pau Torres again. Now, Pau picks it up, he starts striding forward, and Matsson's got a lot of space on the left, and just a little dink over the top to Matsson's perfectly weighted ball. And that's Pau Torres' view, though, isn't he? He makes that stuff look easy, and I probably take it for granted how good he is at that stuff. You probably think that's pretty standard for him, but it's a lovely pass over the top. And I think Matsson's just one touch. He doesn't even take a touch, just one touch into Jacob Ramsey. And it's just, it's really good to see that link up play already, given, JJ's been injured. Matsson's just come into the club. And you're right. I think this season we're going to be seeing a bit of Matsson, a bit of Dean. But I think that's where Ian Matsson is going to be is most effective for us, that driving forward, getting into those positions. And just that touch, the layoff to Jacob Ramsey. And then Jacob Ramsey been out for a long time and just kept his head and picked out John Duran with a lovely pass. And again, I wouldn't have been too hard on Jacob Ramsey if he'd have tried to take a shot on from there, because he was in a great position in the box, and we know he's a great finisher himself. And, having been out for a while, you think, wouldn't mind getting on the score sheet. And yeah, lovely finish. Great goal, though. I thought that was just a really nice team goal. And when I watched it back earlier, just the passage of play is really exciting, given how new the squad is and how fresh we are at the moment. So first game of the season is really good signs.
And Onana slotted in really well there, Tess. As soon as Pau Torres picked up the ball, you see Onana drop back to cover that space to allow Pau Torres push on. I mean, that's Onana's first competitive game for us, and he's already slotting in that well, that he's that in tune already. I mean, it's huge. Kamara used to do it a lot. But obviously Kamara can't offer what Onana does going forward as well. So if he can kind of find a balance between what we've lost from Luiz and what we've lost from Kamara, and offer a bit of both, it's a huge signing, considering that we've probably got, obviously Luiz has left the club and Kamara is now, you're looking at October, and probably the positive test is that they don't have to rush Kamara back now if Onana's going to be able to do that job, But the thought of the two of them together and Tielemans, it's really, really exciting, But that's the depth we have now, lads, because we still have Kamara to come back, we still have Tyrone Mings to come back, still have lads that have to get up to speed, really. So we talked last week on the podcast and we said, like, there was a lot of people saying that we hadn't strengthened enough. We've definitely strengthened. Like, if we'd had that bench, we would have won the conference, no problem. Like, we had no options. That's no disrespect to the young lads, Like, those guys, some of them lads played over 4,000 minutes each. Test.
I just wanted to say, though, I thought, and I know, we talked about how Onana was, I thought he was immense today, being the first competitive game, as you mentioned earlier. But I think Youri Tielemans is, I know I said it last time, but watching him in this game today, he's that Dougie replacement that we need at the moment. He can do all of that stuff that Dougie used to do. I don't think in the same way. I think Dougie was maybe a little bit more flair and in the way that he did certain things, but Tielemans does a lot more in terms of he can assist, he can progress play, through balls, all that kind of stuff. But he also gets back and is not bad at making a challenge as well, holding up the ball, all these sorts of things. And I thought Youri Tielemans was really, really good today. Like he hasn't been getting, from what I've been reading and from what I've been seeing, he hasn't really been getting the plaudits, but I thought he was fantastic today. I thought he was brilliant alongside Onana, and a big grown experienced head for some of the younger players, because some of the younger, we've got quite a young team when you looked at what we finished with, so I just wanted to mention Tielemans because I thought he was fantastic, and a few other players are getting all the plaudits, etc., but he is definitely worth a mention. He did a really, really good job.
Great pickup, Test, because they had a big powerful midfield today with Thomas Souček and Guido Fernandez. Like, that Guido Fernandez is going to be a very good player too, but Tielemans kept him out of the game. So you're right. Onana's getting the plaudits, but Onana probably couldn't have performed that well without Tielemans there in the middle with him as well, because Tielemans created a lot of space too. Ryno, tell us about Jaden Philogene Bidet coming off the bench. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I thought it was good to see him come on actually, and yeah, like short cameo, but you can see the skill that he's got and the weapons he's got, and his speed, his trickery. You can see why Emery's sort of keen to bring him back to the club. I think he's ready made. When you bring in Bailey off, if you need something in that mold, I think he sort of fits the bill, doesn't he? Really, we need a squad, and these players are going to come in handy, and I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be used a fair bit throughout the season. I think there's going to be plenty of games for Jaden to get games, and I think he offers a real threat for us. I'm looking forward to seeing his development this season. I think him getting games last year in the championship for Hull, and he's kicked on a little bit. He's settling back into the system, so it'll take him a while. But I think if a bit of patience with him, I think he's going to be a really good player for us. And again, like I think Tess touched on, a lot of the players, it was 4 or 5 players there that are, 22, 23. It's good signs. A very young profile, that squad that finished the game. The Jelkovic came on. He was on the same side as Philogene. There's a couple of heart-stopping moments. There was one moment where those guys got in a bit of a mess in the box, but that's all right. There's, you can obviously a bit of nerves playing your first game for Villa, and really good to see though both of those guys get on the right-hand side, and exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the Jelkovic as well. Just the speed. I think he's going to offer something very different to Matty Cash offensively, and similar to what you spoke about earlier, Spud. I could see. If we go with those 2 right backs for the season, I can see a similar sort of thing happen in different games. Cash will start, and then Jelkovic will come on when the game's a bit more wide open and sort of use his pace. But really excited to see those guys get on.
The previous incumbent of John Duran's spot as backup to Holly nearly came and ruined it all for us. Danny Ings had a little header at the end. Talk us through that one, Tess.
Was that for Martinez's save at the end there?
Yeah.
Was that for the cameras? It was a camera save. But look, we know what Danny Ings is all about, don't we? He's a goal scorer. He's just not. He's not quite what he was a few years ago. That's all. But he had a free header and got into that space. So he's always dangerous as a striker in that box. He's going to be dangerous as well. So. It was a little bit of a worrying moment. I felt like towards the last, when we went into the sort of injury time, I felt like we should have done a little bit better in holding the ball. It felt like we were still trying to go forward and perhaps maybe get that killer goal. And I would have liked to have seen us a little bit more, what's the word there? Match control, control. Just look
game
after
management.
Game management is the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Ryno. I felt like we needed to have bit better game management in those moments, especially for the last 7 minutes, 6 minutes, or whatever it is. Keep the ball. Let them chase the ball, and we keep the ball. Give Martinez the ball. I'm pretty sure he'll find a reason to waste some time. He'll find a reason. He stared at me too hard or something like that, and so I have to go down. He would have helped us. I love Martinez. He would have helped us there, and I felt like that's something that we will get better at throughout the season. I think those players were a little bit tired by the end of that game, because it was the first game of the season. Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, Tess. Ryno, I think that's one that Danny Ings will probably lose sleep over last night, because he's just the manager that moved him on, he was playing against, and then a new manager coming in is just giving him a chance, and to miss a chance like that, I think he'll be definitely losing a bit of sleep over that one, will he?
I know, 96 minute as well, so heart was in the mouth, to be honest with you. And Fulkrug was on at that point, so both of them were in the box. So it's, as Villa fans, we've been here far too often in injury time and been stung before. So, just happy to see Martinez's big mitts around the ball.
Boys, it was nice to do our first part of the league season, to start off with a win. I'm going to ask you both now to give me your biggest positive each from the match before we wrap up. So, Tess, I'll start with you. What was the biggest takeaway you had from today?
The biggest takeaway for me today was all of the practice that we've been doing in the pre-season. So not everybody watched the pre-season. They might have just seen results. But all of the practice that we had in the pre-season with certain players, with Rodgers, with Ramsey, with McGinn, with Pau Torres, I saw something today, and I was like, in the preseason, I saw the way these players were trying to practice, and that came to fruition today. And I saw the reason why they were doing what they were doing in the preseason, because the preseason results don't matter. But today, I saw pieces of what Emery's trying to do with some of these players. Some of them are trying to fit in with our structure and fit in with our mold, and the only way to do that is to play games. And sometimes you're going to get bits and pieces wrong, but you're going to learn from them. And I felt like my biggest takeaway today was we've got players who are listening to the manager, and I think they're going to be really good players and a good squad this season.
Brilliant pick-up, Des. And yourself, Ryno? What's something you took from the game?
Probably midfield control for me, like we touched on, just seeing Onana and Tielemans dominate in there. And, like you say, it's a tough game going away to West Ham, especially first game of the season, and just filled me with confidence seeing those two just controlling, dictating the tempo, keeping hold of the ball, recycling it. Bit of physicality from Onana as well. And the other thing for me, probably the biggest positive, is the substitutions and having a squad that, you can put players on to really, change the game and kick us on a bit. So that was big for me. Just like I said at the start, just seeing the subs bench and knowing that there's a lot of quality and a lot of depth in the squad now. And I think that's going to stand us in good stead for the season.
Yeah, there was a lot of positives, obviously, I could take from the game. I mentioned a few earlier, but one of the big ones for me, I think, has to be is because once Kamara got injured, Torres couldn't advance as much up the pitches as we used to like to get him when Kamara was available. He still used to carry the ball, but he wasn't advancing into these crazy high positions. We needed to control a little bit more once Kamara got injured. But this was the first time in ages he was able to do it, where he was just constantly bringing the ball out. And we look a different side when he can do that, because I think Alex Moreno probably played his best football when Torres could get high with the ball, because Moreno could get high up the pitch and not be the threat of the overturn because Kamara would cover him. We haven't had that in a while. So for Onana to be able to do that, amongst a lot of other things, I think for me, for our build-up structure, to be able to see Torres comfortably come out with the ball again is huge. And I think that everything is going to be built around that from here on in, between the ability for Onana to cover Torres. Boys, it was a brilliant podcast to start with. It's always good to start with 3 points. Didn't quite happen last season. So, boys, have you anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, just want to say to everybody that's been giving us some feedback on YouTube and via Spotify and Apple Podcasts, thank you for all your good feedback. We take a lot of that on board, and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Just want to say you can find me at Cuban_night on all social media platforms, and where can they find you guys?
You can get me at Ryno_Watkins on Twitter.
And you can get me at AVFC Spud, capital A, capital S, on Twitter.
Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below.
Yeah, it makes huge difference to the podcast, lads. The last episode really went off well, so thank you all very much for this, for hitting that subscribe and that like, and the feedback was fantastic, and it's growing every week, guys, and that we're very appreciative for that. And on to Arsenal next week. Not sure if we'll be back for a podcast during the week or not, but we will let you know on the socials where we're at with that. But anyway, after a nice positive 3 points, guys, up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Come on.